Good Friday afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and man, do we have a busy forecast in store for you today. After a very, very busy night last night, we saw over 67 tornado warnings last night and many, many more severe thunderstorm warnings. The most amount of tornado warnings that we've seen in about 3 weeks. So this was a very busy day after a very slow past few days. So we are just ramping up to a active weather weekend ahead of us as well. We have several rounds of storms on the way for a good portion of the country. So let's get into it. Storms on top of storms, on top of storms, on top of storms. It is just on repeat right now. We do have a major hail risk for today, a very, very good likelihood for some large hailstones, not just isolated in one area, but in multiple areas. We are watching for these large hailstones, very large hailstones. After we see storms today out in the Missouri Valley, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Kentucky and Tennessee, we switch down into Oklahoma. So Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, you guys are all in the risk. Not today, but closer to the weekend and early next week. So we've got a lot going on today. Let's take a look at that risk right now. You've got the Storm Prediction Center risk, and I often don't show this risk. We talk more about the individual hazards of each of these storms, or of the risk in general. We talk about the hazards, the tornado, wind, hail hazard. But I did want to show you today because we've got a very rare moderate risk highlighted here in red. So that does not happen very often. I think it's happened 3 times this year so far. I may be incorrect on that. But it does not happen very often. It's a level 4 on a scale of 5, and I wanted to show that. But we'll switch over to the hail risk now. Another pretty rare risk for hail. We often don't see this purple pop up in that hail risk at all. So this is also very, very significant and very telling that we have a lot of active weather today. And we'll get more into that here in just a few minutes. But I do want to remind you guys of the drone giveaway that we have going on right now. We have our 15-year anniversary celebration as a company, and we want to give back to you all. So tell us how we have helped you over the last 15 years, whether it's been 15 days or 15 years. Put a post out on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you have your social media. Tag us and use the hashtag 15 years of hail trace, 15 years of hail trace. Alrighty, now let's get a little bit more serious and talk about those storms that we saw last night. It was a slow start at first, but once it was on, it was on. Things escalated very quickly with some large hail on the far western side of Wisconsin. Actually, I think some of the most impressive storms happened right around 5, 6 o'clock last night in Wisconsin. We saw some massive hail in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We saw some really good hail sizes in Madison as well. Slowly but surely, we shifted down to the south and more into Illinois, where we saw some really high winds, especially on the eastern side of the state, but still some large hail mixing in there as well. And then it became a full-out wind event. We told you that southern Michigan was going to have some very extreme high winds yesterday, and that's exactly what we saw. Through the overnight hours, we're not stopping at midnight. We saw storms redevelop out in Arkansas, southern Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, right along the Kentucky state line. Storms redeveloped, and we produced some pretty decent hailstones over here as well. Alrighty, let's get to what's happening right now. We do have several severe thunderstorm warnings out there right now, and I can see your chats over here. I can see that Chipper is on from YouTube saying, good afternoon, Hail Trace team. Thanks for joining us today. Tell us where you're watching from on this Friday afternoon. Where are you watching from, and what questions do you have about the forecast? Let's take a look at some of those severe thunderstorm warnings that we have going on right now. I'll zoom out here for you so you can see exactly what are we looking at. Where are we looking? Well, we have a watch in place right now, highlighted here in pink, and several warnings within that as well. We also have a tornado watch. This is brand new information, tornado watch, in place out in Missouri. Let's get to that in just a minute. Here's your severe thunderstorm watch for storms ongoing right now out in Kentucky, and your tornado watch out in Missouri and northern Arkansas that goes until 7 o'clock this evening. So we are just getting started with some pretty significant storms as well. I'm going to skip over these Kentucky storms unless someone on the chat or in the comments section wants me to go back, and I'm going to get right down into this northern Arkansas storm. This is right outside of Spadra, Arkansas, headed into Clinton right now, and it is a significant severe thunderstorm warning for 2-inch size hail. So what we told you earlier with storms producing those large hailstones today, not just in one place, but in many, many places across the country, it's already starting. 2-inch size hail in Lamar, that's a city in northern Arkansas, about 1,600 people impacted by this severe thunderstorm warning. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the current conditions because I know that we have a very busy forecast to get to, but I did want to note we have storms that are popping up in or just outside of Springfield. They're going to parallel I-44 headed up to St. Louis. So St. Louis may be one of the biggest cities that we have in the path for large storms today. But let's move on here. I don't want to spend too much time on these storms right here. We do have a tornado warning. Whew, wow, lots going on right now. And we can always go back to the radar if we need to. If you guys are in some of these areas and you want some storm coverage, we can always go back to the radar here. But I do want to talk about what happened yesterday. Here's your hailstorm highlight, which we've been calling a hail light here lately. Madison, Wisconsin, we told you we've got some large hail in this area. The maximum hail size was a 4-incher. That was up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Yeah, that was a very impressive storm. Massive hail, not isolated, widespread across this area. Eau Claire, Madison, Milwaukee area, 5-star hailstorm. 500,000 people impacted by these hailstorms yesterday. Look how widespread these storms were across Wisconsin. We've just got track after track after track of large hail. So all of these hail maps are at hailtrace.com. We've also got another 3-star event yesterday. That was just to the south of Chicago, north of Champaign. We've got Waukegan, Bloomington, and Lincoln, Illinois, all in the path of some of these larger hailstones. About 250,000 people impacted out in Illinois. For Chicago specifically, these storms kind of skirted around the city. They went up to the north into Waukegan, and then they went down to the south. Chicago got some heavy downpours yesterday and some high wind, but other than that, missed out on a lot of those larger hailstones. Then we go down to Arkansas. I told you through the overnight hours, storms redeveloped out in Arkansas, heading into Kentucky. The largest hail size in this area was just larger than the size of a hen egg, just smaller than the size of a tennis ball. About 16,000 people impacted by this storm. So we've got a lot going on, right? The last 24 hours have been busy. The next 24 hours are going to be busy. Quiet right now across the far southeastern portion of the U.S. We've got those watches and warnings ongoing for many states. All of this brought to you by a low pressure system that's hanging up right now in Minnesota, but you can see this trough down here to the south of this low pressure system. This is really what is driving those storms today. And we'll talk more about that later on, but I want to get to those temperatures right now. It's hot in this area. We've got 76 in Kansas City, 81 in Fort Wayne, well above average down in this area that we are expecting, well above average for temperatures down in this area that we're expecting those extreme storms today. So actually we have someone down in this area. Isaac is our broadcast meteorologist intern for the summer. So we want to actually get to him and get a check on current conditions out in southern Illinois today.
Hey there, Hail Stalkers. I'm Isaac Walters reporting to you from southeastern Illinois. I'm in a field. That is right. I'm in a field, as you can see all around me. And that is because that is really what our moderate risk, keep in mind, just our moderate risk is going to be seeing today. We have Louisville in that eastern portion of that moderate risk, but really St. Louis kind of clips it to the west and Nashville kind of clips it to the south. But our big 4 out of 5 risk is really going to be a lot of what you see here, a lot of fields, a lot of small communities. So obviously it's something to be taken seriously, but we're going to be seeing plenty of widespread hail, not just in this 4 out of 5. So I know Taylor's going to be talking plenty about that. Right now here in southeastern Illinois, it feels very humid. Temperatures in those mid-70s with that dew point in those upper 60s. So it feels plenty muggy and humid. I've already kind of started to break a little bit of a sweat. I've only been out here for a few minutes. And we've already seen several moderate risks this storm season. We've seen 2 previously prior to this one. So we're looking to make our 3rd moderate risk here in southeastern Illinois. I know the whole state of Illinois has really been getting hit pretty hard. But I'm going to send it back to Taylor now here in southeastern Illinois, reporting to you, Isaac.
And as you heard Isaac say right there, it's hot down in southern Illinois right now. You've got that heat, you've got that moisture. He said that he was already starting to break a sweat by just being outside for a few minutes. So that's what it feels like right now. It's hot in this area, and what you're going to see is those temperatures, those warm temperatures, are just going to increase throughout the afternoon hours, helping to increase the severity of these storms here. But we have a lot of factors that are going into storm development today. And that's going to increase the hail size, the tornado strength. We've got a lot going on in this forecast. But instead of telling you all about the meteorological factors that go into this, let's talk about the impacts and the hazards that you could be in today. We've got a widespread risk for large hail today. You can see that those storms, this model has these storms pretty spot on. We're starting to see storms out in northern Arkansas and southern Missouri. Pretty accurate, right? Continuing to track to the east as we head into the afternoon hours. What did I mention about St. Louis earlier? One of the first places to get hit today will be St. Louis. We've got storms forming right to the west of St. Louis, tracking to the east into the city as we head into the late afternoon. We don't stop there. We're going to see some high wind for a lot of people up to the north, and then we're going to continue to see that hail risk a little bit farther down to the south. We are also watching for the potential for strong to violent tornadoes today. Let's take a look at that hail model first. Ooh, look at that. Southeastern Missouri into southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and western Kentucky. This area, that's where Isaac was earlier. This is the area that is expected to get the largest hailstones today. So what are we talking about here? Well, usually whenever we see these orange colors, golf ball size hail, pretty safe bet. When we start to get into the reds, we're starting to see tennis ball size hail. But when we see those pinks mix in, what that often means is that we're expecting baseball to softball size hail. So 3-inch size hailstones, totally possible today. We could probably see much larger than that. So this area right here, largest hail is expected. Forecasted max hail size for today, softball size hail, yep. 3.5 inches, I think that's absolutely possible. Yesterday we saw 4-incher. So where exactly are we expecting those large hailstones? This would be, as I mentioned earlier, southeastern Missouri. We could see St. Louis kind of squeaking into that large hail zone right there, into western Kentucky, and even into the far northwestern portion of Tennessee. I'm going to zoom down here so you can get a really good look of what cities are in the path of these large hailstones. I mentioned St. Louis is in the path here. Even Dallas. I mean, these storms stretch as far south as Texas today, and Dallas is in the path of those ping pong to golf ball size hailstones today. What about your likelihood here? Well, I put a level 2 down in Dallas, a moderate risk. Little Rock also level 2. But the highest risk that I think, the city that with the highest risk for storms today, I think will be anywhere from St. Louis to Indianapolis, maybe even down into Nashville. So those are the areas that we're expecting surefire areas to get storms today. What about your wind forecast? What we're seeing here are these, and you'll see this here in just a few minutes with our future radar. What we're seeing is that some of these lines of storms want to start to bow out, and what that means is that high wind is expected. So we could see high wind over 75 miles an hour. 80 miles an hour today, I think, is absolutely possible. Indianapolis to Nashville in the path of that high wind. So you've got that hail risk out here in Missouri and into southern Illinois. Then you see that wind risk kind of shifting over into Nashville and Indianapolis. What about that tornado risk? Well, it covers a very large area today, most of Kentucky, Indianapolis in that significant tornado risk, Nashville, Little Rock, all included in that risk today. That risk gets a lot lower whenever we get down to places like Dallas, Raleigh, Pittsburgh. But what I really want to talk about is this risk that's anywhere from Nashville to Indianapolis. It's a level 4 on a scale of 5. But the most impressive thing about this is going to be those hatched lines right here. What does that mean? What does a hatched risk mean? What does a hatched risk mean? It means strong to violent tornadoes. We're talking about EF2 or stronger tornadoes here, and this is a very large area that we could see that. So definitely something to keep an eye on today. Make sure that you have multiple ways to get severe weather alerts because this is a very significant risk. Alrighty, moving on to your timeline. I told you that storms are going up right now, anywhere from Springfield to northern Arkansas, really hugging the state, the highway right here to the north of Little Rock. We are going to see storms firing up in St. Louis. So just to the west of St. Louis, we'll start to see those storms fire today. They'll move through the city as we head into the afternoon, evening hours, right around or shortly before your evening commute. Then it seems like we just see storms pop up everywhere. We've got storms down in Dallas at this time, 5 o'clock. I think that those storms will be moving through Dallas. Central Illinois into Cincinnati, but again, we're really watching this area right here, anywhere from Memphis up to central Kentucky for the strongest and most severe storms. We don't stop there. We have another risk for storms tomorrow as well. That brings us back down into places like Oklahoma and Texas, and then we even have storms off on the East Coast tomorrow. So let's get through this here. That was your risk for today. And let's get into tomorrow. Here's just another look at your risk today. Many people expecting to get storms today. Here we go. This brings us to Saturday. I'm really going to focus down on Texas and Oklahoma for tomorrow. Storms look like they go up in the afternoon and evening hours, really favoring the central to eastern side of the state. But this is not the only risk, the only time that we see storms in this area. Okay, the southern plains are going to get hit over and over here. Tomorrow still, we could expect some large hail sizes up to the size of a baseball. We also have a tornado risk for tomorrow. That really puts a bullseye on Dallas for that tornado risk. It's a level 2 on a scale of 5 for Dallas, and then stretching all the way down to the south, we have a level 1 risk. And this even goes up into places like Oklahoma City for tomorrow for that level 1 tornado risk. So there's another look at your radar here. As we go into Sunday, it's very, very similar. The area that's going to get hit on Sunday will be central to the eastern portion of Oklahoma and Kansas. And I want to skip ahead and get to your risk here. Let's get to Sunday. Friday, there's Saturday. Again, large hail is expected anywhere from Oklahoma City all the way down into central Texas tomorrow. And then we have that level 2 tornado risk. Sunday, Oklahoma on the central and western side of the state, and then even Kansas, right through the central portion of Kansas. We're talking Salina, Wichita, all in this level 3 risk for large hail on Sunday. Monday, very similar setup in the same area where Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri are expecting storms on Monday. I know a lot of people out of Kansas City keep asking, when are we going to get storms? They've missed out on storms many, many times this year. It feels like it always goes to St. Louis, right? Well, Kansas City, you have a risk for storms both Monday and Tuesday. And there's your forecast. Again, I told you all of this brought to you by a low pressure system up to the north, and then this trough that is initiating storms today. However, we've got another one on the west coast that will help to initiate storms on Monday and Tuesday. What happens next week? We're getting pretty close to Memorial Day weekend. You guys have plans for the weekend? Well, I'm watching this trough out on the west coast for the weekend, and I'm really wondering if it can move a little bit closer. Next weekend, we could get some storms early next weekend as well. So we'll have to see. It's too soon to tell at this point. We're just keeping an eye on those upper air models because that could tell us information about storms weeks out. Temperature change, a little bit cooler up in Minneapolis today. Everyone else about normal this time of the year. And don't forget about that giveaway, that drone giveaway. That's a lot of fun. We've been here for 15 years, and we want to give back to you all. Now, I'm looking at your questions and your comments on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter right now. Pretty quiet crowd today, which is surprising because oftentimes we have a lot of people commenting and asking questions about their specific cities. So if you have a question about your specific city, stick it in the comments section. I'm pretty good about getting back to you, usually with a picture or a forecast within the next hour. So let us know where you're watching from today, and we'll be back here probably within the next hour or two with radar updates, and we'll continue to do that all throughout the afternoon. We, of course, appreciate you jumping on here today. Stay safe today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. We've got lots of rounds of storms in our future, so we'll be back on here very soon. Follow us in the meantime on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. All storms from last night are up on the Hail Trace app right now, and we have meteorologists mapping storms right now that are moving through southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. So, and out in Kentucky. We have severe thunderstorm warnings in Kentucky as well. Our Mets are on it. Give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information. Alrighty, thanks for joining us on this Friday. We'll see you back here in just a few hours.